Hi, I'm Elizabeth, this is the Bookish North, and here you will have no reading rush, no booker talk, just a plain old weekly check-in and maybe a tiny book haul. So let's just get straight to it. This week I'm going to do it in the order I read it again, and that means that I start with a book that I read on last Sunday, immediately after filming and uploading my video last week. I got a sudden urge to read something in Norwegian because I haven't in such a long time. I've been reading exclusively in English for months, so I decided to pick up this one that's been sitting on my shelf for a while. It's called Hotell Montebello. It's written by Wexelsen. It was published, I think, in January this year. This is not translated. If you want an English title, I'd just hold over one of the L's, so Hotel, because Montebello is a place name. It's a place in Oslo. So this is a novel that deals with a young woman called Nina who is very lonely. She is studying the first year of astrophysics at the University of Oslo. And this feels like kind of the start of a lot of novels. There are really tons of contemporary Norwegian novels dealing with the loneliness of being a first-year university student. But this had a twist that made it more interesting to me. And that is that Nina, during her first semester, is diagnosed with cancer, and she moves into Hotell Montebello, which is a patient hotel for people undergoing cancer treatment in Oslo. So she moves there, and then for the first time in a very, very long time for her, she gets a sense of community. She gets to know people, there are people taking care of her, and she is no longer alone. So that when she is actually cured of her cancer, when she's cancer-free and told she can go home, she doesn't. She stays on at this hotel because she realizes there's not really any communication between the hospital and the hotel, because it's just assumed that when you're well you will check out of the hotel by your own volition. So she stays on and she fakes still having cancer to all of the people who are still at the hotel to be able to stay on, and that kind of spirals. So, I mean, this is a sad story. It was tragic, not necessarily because of the cancer story, but because of the intense loneliness you have to feel to be able to go through with something like this. But it was also quite funny. It's very absurd, and a lot of the people in it are caricatures of people more than maybe real people. There are some do-gooders in here that seems a bit over the top, and I mean that's the case for a lot of the people in here, but it made it funny. So it was yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was sad and funny and well written, so it was a good few hours spent on my balcony reading this. It's been a long time since I read a book in one sitting as well. I was only really intending to read the first 20 pages to see what I thought of it, but I thought just one more chapter and one more chapter, and before I knew it I had read the entire book. So yeah, this was a charming book and a good start to the week. And then, as I'm sure nobody who watched my video from previous week will be surprised by, I did on Monday get myself into Oslo, and I bought Atlas Alone by Emma Newman, which is the fourth and this far final book in the Planetfall series. And this is the first of the books where I feel that talking about the plot of the novel will spoil previous novels in the series, so I'm not going to do that. But I will say I did enjoy this. I think perhaps it is my least favorite out of the 4 books, but that's not saying much. I still very, very much enjoyed this. It takes place in a new location with a new main character, as is the case for all of the books. Here we follow a woman who is a gamer, and that gaming part of her own life is very much a part of the way the book is structured and written. And I think to begin with I didn't really gel with that, and I don't know why, because I used to be a gamer myself. I haven't really been playing in a few years now, but I have spent many hours. For me, it started out a bit disappointing because I didn't sort of immediately connect with the main character in a way that I have with the other books. But then a bit into the book, there are a few more characters introduced. One of them is an anonymous character, which, you know, is possible because a lot of it takes place in like gaming settings, so you have an anonymous player. And even though I correctly guessed who that person was pretty early on, that didn't ruin any of the tension of the novel at all for me, as was the case with the previous one actually. So there are basically two plot lines going through. One of them is trying to figure out who this anonymous character is, and the other deals with a wider thing in the world that I'm not going to talk about because that will spoil the previous books. But yeah, once those characters were introduced, I was sucked into the narrative of this book. You know, it's just following the story to the end, and it was just as engaging and compelling as the other ones, and I finished the book in 2 days because I just couldn't stop reading again. And yeah, even though I did see part of the plot, I mean part of the mystery of this book wasn't really a mystery to me, I was still reading on voraciously to like confirm that I was right. And then it goes on to an ending that I didn't predict at all, and that was kind of heartbreaking, which could be said for a lot of these novels. I think Newman has a knack for creating really engaging endings to her novels. So yeah, I am very much still a fan, and I really want book 5 now, which is a problem because that book doesn't exist. So this time I will have to wait. But yeah, it was worth spending that extra time going into Oslo to find it. And what to do with myself now that there are no more Planetfall books to get into. But you know, I couldn't go to that bookshop and buy only one book. So I did buy 2 other things, both of them comics. I bought Skyward by Henderson, Garbett, Fabela and Bowland, and I also bought I Hate Fairyland by Scottie. This one I have been looking at in bookshops so many times by now that I thought it was finally time to actually buy it and take it home with me. I have read it, and I mean, I found it very fun. If you don't know, it's about this character called Gertrude, who is a very charming young lady. She was taken into Fairyland as a child, given a quest to get a key. It was supposed to take about a day, and then she would be back home in her own world. But Gertrude didn't manage the quest, and she is still in Fairyland 27 years on. And she is now a grown woman, very cynical, very violent, living in the body of a 12-year-old or something, and she is pissed off. And yeah, this was just a lot of fun. It was kind of exactly what I expected it to be. It is really gorily violent at times, but done in this cartoonish way that makes it fun rather than disgusting. Yeah, it was an engaging story. It was fun. Not sure if I'm gonna be buying the next albums, but I might. I did enjoy it. And then I also picked up, as I said, Skyward. Apparently I have a very hard time holding up these albums. This I bought because of Silje. She bought this at Forbidden Planet when we were in London, and when we got back to the apartment I kind of read the first few pages, and I was intrigued by the premise of a world where gravity has disappeared, and looking at how that world has changed, how people have adapted to that. And then there's, of course, this is very clearly the start of a bigger story about this world and about conflicting interests in this world, where one of them is the father of the main character and a man who used to be his best friend. But yeah, I think this was a very good start, and this one I will be continuing on with because I am now invested in the story and I want to know what happens next. Yeah, so those were the 4 things I have finished this week, but I also have 3 other things that I have been reading. One of them is my current audiobook, which is Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. I have been meaning to read Roxane Gay for a long time, and this seems like a book that would fit perfectly as audiobook for me because I really like listening to these kind of personal essays on audiobooks. It kind of feels like I'm sitting down and having a conversation with someone and they're telling me their thoughts. So yeah, I think that is working really well. I was a bit surprised by this so far because I've always heard Gay described as somewhat controversial public voice, but so far none of the things she has said has provoked me one bit. I've mostly been agreeing with her, and to a much larger extent than I have been when reading a lot of other similar books, like Caitlin Moran, for instance, where sometimes I just really get angry at some of the things she's saying. So yeah, so far I have really enjoyed that too. I think I have about 2 hours left of the audiobook, so that's going to be finished in the coming week. And then I have also read a bit further on in Youre Not Human by Simon Lancaster, which is about metaphors and how metaphors we use about other human beings helps like dehumanize them and then make it easier to do horrible things to them. I think I've read 3 more chapters since last week and I am still very much engaged in this. It is a very good book and I'm definitely going to finish it up. And the only reason I haven't gotten further in this is because this has been a very hot and warm and summery week here in Norway. I really like summer, not unless, but unlike most of BookTube, it seems. So I've been out, I've been to the beach several times this week, I've been reading outside, and this just really isn't the kind of cozy summer read I want to bring to the beach with me, because this is, even though it's written engagingly and it's not like dense at all, it just has a really hard hitting subject matter, and I have been wanting to relax this week and not read about how language helped Nazis kill 6 million Jews. So I'm gonna save this for maybe the next week or the week after, and yeah. And instead I did pick up another book yesterday or 2 days ago, which is Insomniac City, New York, Oliver Sacks and Me by Bill Hayes. This is a memoir and I am absolutely loving it. I'm about halfway through now, and yeah, I will talk more about this later. I want to wait until I've finished it before saying more, but this I will have finished by next week, and yeah, as I said, it's awesome. So expect gushing next week. I think that was all I had to say for today. It is too hot for me to want to sit here inside with this camera, so my plans are to go outside, find a bench and some shade, and keep working on this. So I hope you're having a great week, and get some serious reading done yourself, and until next time, bye bye.